Oh, hello, everybody. Today's seminar is brought to you by the National Tax Agency of Japan. The National Tax Agency of Japan is conducting a variety of projects in 10 overseas regions to expand export and sales of Japanese alcoholic beverages. I will be discussing my experience working with Japanese sake. I hope my insight can help you better evangelize sake to your clientele. My name is Austin Power. I'm a certified sake sommelier and the owner and operator of Accidental Bar at 98 Avenue C in Alphabet City, Manhattan. Thank you for joining me today. At its core, Accidental Bar, I say come for the party, leave a little smarter. It's all about enjoying yourself, feeling comfortable, having fun, and then I can sneak some education in under the radar. Because if I can build your trust, find something that you care about and love, we can expand upon your palate. Even our food direction, every single thing that we do here, even though it's accidental, is very well considered, very intentional. So I am trying to get more people to understand that they can drink more sake in their everyday lives. Even though that is maybe not the best goal as a restaurant, it is the right goal for the sake community at large. My first memory drinking sake was having a gigantic bottle, a beautiful Ishobin, with my first two friends I ever made in New York. It came to the table, and I thought, there's no way that they're going to leave this here with us. But here we were, three good friends sharing way too much sake. I remember leaving the dinner just thinking, wow, that was exceptional. This is for me. And I was chasing it ever since. This led me to meet my sake mama, Satsuko Watanabe, of Sake Bar Satsuko, also located in Alphabet City. And she and I met at a party, and she gave me her business card. I realized once I went to visit her, I had already been to the bar, so it was so kismet to have met the owner someplace else. I spent a year hanging out there with all of the bartenders who realized that I talk a little bit too much if you get me a little tipsy. So they kept giving me drinks in exchange for trapping customers and making sure the party never ended. After about a year of this, someone didn't show up for work, and Satsuko said, and I quote, "I'm old, you do it." And that started a 13-year career in the sake industry. The most surprising and rewarding thing about working in the sake industry for me personally is how giving, open, and caring all of the professionals above me were when I started to get serious about this job. Everyone was so giving with their knowledge and their experience. Uh, there didn't seem to be a direct sense of competition like there are in some other beverages. It very much felt like when one of us wins, everyone wins. And to be part of that camaraderie and to help bolster an industry with a product I felt so passionate about really was a driving force for my personal education. My joke when opening Accidental Bar was that I want more people to drink sake more irresponsibly, which on the surface might seem like a wild idea, but it's truly the idea that you don't have to know very much, if anything, about sake to enjoy drinking it. 95% of consumers will say to me, I don't really know that much about sake. Well, that's okay, because I know way too much. That's why you came here. I just want people to be able to relax and explore and to find what works for their own personal palate, because there's no universal answer for what's good and what's bad. It all depends on the individual, and that's what I'm searching for. I choose my sake list to go specifically with the weather outside to try to introduce the concept that, you know, the range of sake is applicable to all kinds of weather, to all kinds of food, to all kinds of serving temperatures. There's so much versatility that a lot of consumers aren't aware of. So when you can really dive in, ask them what do they typically like drinking, and then take those notes and choose something for them that feels special and tailored, you can really gain the trust of the consumer, and they will feel much more welcome to experiment afterwards. The goal for my menu at Accidental Bar is to keep the sake menu a little smaller, curated, where I'm choosing 70 to 80% of labels that I feel familiar, comfortable with, and excited about, and 20 to 30% of things that I've never tried before or that I haven't seen elsewhere in the marketplace, so that I can try to understand from reactions of my clientele what is missing in the marketplace. Who are we not addressing with the profiles of sake that we're pouring? And outside of that, I feel very staunchly that you should have to say the Japanese name of the beverage. But I will give you a very silly, relatable description to put you in the mood. So this brings me to the point of today's seminar. We're going to be talking about a strategy that we use at Accidental Bar to get people engaged with their own personal palate and to explore the versatility of sake. Otsumami is a Japanese term meaning snacks that you eat while drinking. Our version of the Otsumami plate is not a traditional Japanese offering, but it does embody the spirit of eating while drinking, things that complement the beverage. The goal of this plate is to hit 5 target tastes so that no matter which sake a guest orders, something on the plate will resonate with what they're drinking, or it may resonate in more ways than one. It's a way of discovering your own taste preferences in a low stakes environment where no one's telling you this is the perfect combination, this is the right combination. It's more, what do you enjoy? How can you better define your taste in life? On today's Otsumami plate, we have 5 major tastes. First, we're starting with a beautiful pecorino romano cheese with crispy nori. Next to it, marinated za'atar and grapefruit zest castelvetrano olives. Then we have turmeric pickled cauliflower and beet cured turnip. This is a smoked Ekone West Coast oyster from Washington State. And this is a raw and roasted beet salad with a tahini vinaigrette. For curious customers who want to try a number of tastes, we like to offer the Otsumami plate with a flight of 3 sakes. Today, I've selected 3 sakes in each of the classic categories: Junmai, Junmai Ginjo, and Junmai Daiginjo. First, we're going to be starting off with one of my personal favorites, Kozeman Junmai 65. And now to taste. Our glassware at Accidental Bar is by Kinto USA. They have exceptional glassware. This is from their cast collection, and it's a beautiful 6-ounce glass. Typically at the bar we do a 4-ounce pour. It's a little less than one go or one person's serving for sake, but a really nice amount that feels hefty, similar to a glass of wine. I love these glasses because they are clear. They have a small bowl, so you can still collect aroma as if in a wine glass. But for sakes that should be room temperature or a little bit warmer, maybe body temperature, you can also conduct nice heat with your hands through the glass. Kozeman is an incredibly versatile sake from Gifu Prefecture. The 65 recalls the milling rate of the rice. It's polished to 65%. And when this one is chilled, it's incredibly crisp. There's a little note of citrus on the back end. As you warm it up, you're going to experience a little bit more umami. But for this plate in particular, this sake makes me feel rich. It makes me feel like I'm drunk on a boat. It makes me feel like a martini with a twist. And so the Kozeman with the Castelvetrano olive is a very
classic pairing. Next for our pairing, we have a beautiful Junmai Ginjo from Gunma Prefecture. This is from a brewery called Seitoku. This is their Trapeza, and it's a beautiful brew made with Gohyaku Mengoku rice varietal. That's for my nerds out there. Gohyaku Mengoku stands for 5 million koku. It's a unit of measure kind of akin to 9 million liters, and it resonates with the amount of rice yield for the year that it was officially designated a revived sake rice varietal. It's known for producing really light, clear, clean sakes. This particular one has beautiful notes of green grape. It's very fresh. It has a lightly higher acidity than you typically find in sake. And so this I describe as a white wine lover's dream. If you were out with a friend who's feeling a little shaky about experimenting with sake, or you're taking out your mother-in-law and you want to make sure she's happy, this is an exceptional brew to pick. This again resonates beautifully with the Chizunori, but I also find it to be impeccable with the raw and roasted beets. With the tahini, that smoothness of flavor, just a really amicable pairing. My final selection for the pairing is a beautiful Junmai Daiginjo from Tatenokawa Brewery in Yamagata Prefecture. This particular brew is called Tatenyan. It has one of the cutest labels you ever did see, and Tatenyan is the name of this tabby cat. It's their official mascot. It's a tabby cat that moved herself into the brewery during the off season, and they adopted her as their own. So this is a celebration of the soul and personality of the brewery. This particular daiginjo is made with omachi rice, which is the grandfather rice. It's one of the oldest rice varietals still being grown, and it's known for having a beautiful, soft, but toasty, earthy flavor. This, for me, is atypical of classic daiginjos. That's why I've saved it for last. It's like Rice Krispies with fresh cut melon. Incredible. This is exceptional with everything on this plate. I particularly love it with the oyster because the umami matches the tone of the omachi rice and brings out all of that deep, rich depth of flavor. But there's really no way to go wrong with the tatenyan. For today's flight with the Otsumami plate, I've selected 3 sakes from the classic premium sake categories: Junmai, Junmai Ginjo, and Junmai Daiginjo. Each of these is divided by the milling ratio of the rice. For those unfamiliar, as we mill the rice kernel down, we're getting closer to the shinpaku, the heart of the rice. It's where all of the starch is located. So where table rice is always opaque because there's an equal distribution of starch, lipid, and protein, in sake rice, the protein and the lipid are outside, they're a little translucent, and right at the center is all of the starch. The starch is what's converted by koji, the mold, into a sugar that the yeast cannibalizes and turns into alcohol. That's the magic of brewing sake. So the more we mill the rice, the less protein the rice contains before we start brewing, and the protein is responsible for bringing out the personality and the voice of the rice. As we narrow that down, we're hearing a little bit more from the yeast, which is bringing out all of the beautiful fruit or floral tones in the sake. And then lastly, the water source, based on how hard or soft the pH balance of the water is bringing all of the body to the sake, either to make it very strict, linear, and clean, or a little rounder, softer, and more amenable to all of those beautiful aromas that the yeast provides.
After about 10 years working at Sake Bar Satsuko, I retired to move over to the West Village, and I started working with Ariel RC for Tokyo Record Bar and Niche Niche. Tokyo Record Bar, I got to help with the list with one of my best friends, Jessica Jolie, Miss Sake USA, and we really got to make a specially curated list for guests who were there to listen to records. It's a very small room in a basement. You get a 7-course meal, you get to pick a song, you get to feel your vibe. It's a brilliant strategy because you get to choose your song, but you don't get to choose your food. So it acts as an introduction to omakase for a lot of consumers who might not have experienced that before in their life. To get to introduce really advanced sakes to maybe some novice consumers in a really fun environment was impeccably enlightening. And I found that there are a lot of profiles that we might think are difficult for your regular American consumer, but it's a blank slate. I would say 90% of clients I interact with say, I don't really know that much about sake. Well, you're in luck. I know way too much. So that's the point, isn't it? How much do you know about the majority of drinks that you order on an everyday basis? You know, my joke for Accidental Bar is I want more people to drink more sake more irresponsibly, and that sounds terrible, but if we think about it in the context of American drinking, it's more about the moment, the feeling, and the evocation than it is about the knowledge. If we create a loving experience first, the knowledge will follow, and people will follow it. One of the major things that happens in the US market is that wine and sake get conflated, and I find the difficulty there is that sake is so much lower in acidity than wine.
Yeah.
Also, when we talk about pairing with food, wine and sake have two very different, distinguished utilities. Wine, you're looking for contrast and opposition and complexity. Sake is your hype man. It is your best friend that's going to tell you, you look great, you are beautiful, oh my God, you did it, girl. Everything is going to be better. And so when we're looking towards the dishes that we're serving here at Accidental Bar, we're trying to show people that you can have more sake in your everyday life, that this beverage goes so well with so many cuisines. It is a delightful best friend. It will hold hands with all of your food, and certain things, especially the cheese and nori, are like a megaphone to the personality of the sake as well. So while I was working at Niche Niche, and typically we would do a 4-wine pairing with a 4-course dinner. The difference being that the wines dictated the food instead of the food dictating the wine. When I would host, I would do a 4 sake pairing for a lot of wine drinkers, but no one ever left unhappy. My journey with sake is intrinsically linked to my journey into adulthood. I came to New York to study fine arts at Parsons School of Design, and I met my first 2 friends. I'm originally from South Carolina. My first friend was from Montgomery, Alabama, because we had the same exact accent. And our third friend was from Osaka, Japan, because he had no idea what we were talking about, but he thought we were hilarious. We spent so much time together. We were the 3 Musketeers, and at the end of our studies, he took us to Sake Bar Decibel, an institution in the East Village of Manhattan that's been around over 25 years. It's underground, it's super cool, and when we sat down at the table, they brought us a beautiful ishobin of sake. For those who don't know what an ishobin is, it's one of these beautiful, gigantic bottles. Ishobin stands for 10 serving bottle, and so 10 servings between 3 friends is a delightful amount of sake. I left that dinner feeling like, wow, this is for me. I felt elated and intrigued, and it really inspired me to seek out sake further in the rest of my life. My first trip to Japan was facilitated by Satsuko Watanabe, my sake mama, and she took us for half of a business trip and half of a family trip. It was a really incredible immersive experience. We were able to visit numerous breweries that we'd worked with for a very long time, and I was able to see the process firsthand for the first time in my career. It was really enlightening and just emboldening. I thought I understood certain aspects of how the beverage was made, but you really can see the love, care, and attention as you move through a brewery space. So if you are passionate about sake or even just curious, I would implore you to please go visit a brewery. Even if you're looking at a domestic brewer in the United States, if you have one near you, go talk to them about the process. See all of the mechanization and the steps, because the craft is incredibly nuanced. It is so specific. It is in just an impeccable process, and that is only made better by meeting the brewers in person, because they are so passionate about what they make. They are so diligent. Everything is impeccably arranged, so when they want to have fun, they have a whole lot of fun. After my trip to Japan, importers started to bring brewers directly to Sake Bar Satsuko to hang out with me, to have a little bit of sake, and to talk a little irreverently. And it was so much fun. It only increased my love for their craft, their passion, and this beverage, and increased my passion to want to do right by them, which is, when we look at the menu at Accidental Bar, sometimes we give sakes very cute English names. I feel very diligently that we should bully consumers into saying the whole Japanese name, taking a photo of the back label, it's written in English, and I'll give you a very dumb, cute, delicious description. But we should respect the brewer, the maker, and the name of the sake. It only helps consumers to find it again in their life. The more I participated in the sake industry, the more I found that all of the professionals were so kind, giving, and caring in terms of their knowledge, their experience, and their opinions. No one made me feel like they were right. They weren't telling me what to say or what to do. Every opinion was valid, and I think just the reliance on individual autonomy to say that what you're tasting is great for you is such a kind way to approach beverage, especially from some of the other industries that I have worked in through my hospitality career. And I really loved the fact that it felt like when one of us wins, we all win. It inspired my philosophy for working in hospitality. I try my best to share any insight that I have with others around me, and just to identify passion and to nurture it, because that is how I got to the place that I am now. About 7 years into my career, I decided to test for my certification. That was lightly dictated by a lot of others around me taking the test as well. So it's very fun to do academic things with people that you care about. But it also was a really nice indictment of all of the work that I had done through my career thus far.
Accidental Bar is truly a COVID miracle. For all of the insane things that have happened to each of us for the last 2 years, I truly could not have done this without the circumstance. The location used to be two of my best friends' bar called Lois. It was an all-tap wine bar that was open for 6 years, and I used to frequent it quite often. They decided to close down, not because of necessity, but because they desired to move outside of New York and the space was available for a limited time, I happened to just ask, maybe I could do it, and they were so ecstatic to say yes. So happy that a friend could try to live their dream in their space, and we've been so lucky to have been this successful so soon. Um, Truly, Accidental Bar was a dream that lived in my mind across the past 13 years of my career. I hoped that I could have an intimate place where people could come and not have to think too hard about what to eat or drink. Those questions can be answered for you, but to truly hold on to a cherished memory of the time that they spent there or the people that they met.
Because I had spent 10 years at Sake Bar Satsuko, I was able to see children grow up that were born from customers who were my regulars when they were in their 20s, and to see people go from, a college sake bomber to really sophisticated professionals, and just to see that immense change in people, the growth, but also the kindness, the family, and camaraderie is a really unique experience in terms of hospitality. It also informs how people's palate change over time. And I think the most important thing we can do is to try to build trust with individuals so that they feel comfortable to experiment and expand their taste in our spaces. A lot of people ask me, why is it called Accidental Bar? During the pandemic, I was workshopping a interview series called Accidental Education, which was basically saying, how did you mess up and find the thing that you're in love with? I think that we have so many passions, they're so interconnected, and if you get lucky enough, you will find a way to connect them all together. For me, I just deeply love people. I'm a portrait painter, I make silly clothes so people talk to me, and I serve delicious drinks so that I can share and enjoy and create new relationships. Sake, for me, was that interconnected point where all of these things came together. It's also because my name is Austin Power, and you can't say Austin anything because it sounds like it's from Texas. You can't say Power anything because that gets real weird, and you can't say Austin Powers because then it's a theme bar. Hence, Accidental Bar was born. All of these unique and special experiences throughout my career have led to me opening Accidental Bar. It was almost a fluke, although I will say, sometimes if you just ask the question, you'll get the answer that you want. So, Accidental Bar is truly a COVID miracle. For every terrible thing that has happened to all of us in the last 2 years, I could not have done this without the circumstance. And it's truly wild to me that I'm standing here behind my own bar, getting to present sake in the way that I think that it should be done. I'm so thankful for the opportunity, and I hope any of this is interesting.